Oh my gosh.
Hi everyone! Hello! Happy days, happy days. Sorry I've been so distant. I've been missing in action simply because I had to clear out all the noise in my life for my son and clear out his noise because we have some exciting things going on. You know, right now in the world there's a lot of turmoil, a lot of darkness happening, and so it's nice to share a positive story that, you know, has been occurring in my life that I like to share with you guys about my little lovely Nathaniel. So, as everyone knows, you know, I've been on my quest to find the perfect, you know, first introduction to school for my son, the perfect, you know, preschool experience. I went to several schools, both private and public, trying to, you know, understand what they would teach my son or how they would teach it rather, and, you know, at what pace they would do it at. And so, you know, my original thought was to put him in this, you know, language immersion school to learn Chinese. He's always wanted to learn that since he was 2, until I came across this other option for a school. It was a gifted academy. So I'm reading into it, reading all about it. I like their learning style. I like that it's not grade specific or age specific. It's more based on where they're at with their knowledge, and that's who they group the kids with. So I found that really, really interesting, and in how they teach. But anyways, to even get a tour of this place, you have to have an IQ test. Never in my mind did I think of testing Nathaniel's IQ. Never was a thought. It wasn't even a care. I don't need to know. I don't care. I know what I see, and I know what he has in him, and so a test can't tell me those things, right? But in order to, like I said, get a tour of this place, you have to. So I scheduled it with this psychologist, this brilliant lady. It's Dr. Hilary Katz, amazing, amazing woman. She has all these, you know, decades of experience with just child psychology. And Nathaniel's never been left alone with anyone in his lifetime. Literally since birth, he's had the same 4 people, if I ever like have to go somewhere or do something, that he's been left with. It's either my mom, my sister Andrea, my sister Stephanie, or my nephew Devin. That's it. No one else in his life has he ever spent any time alone with, you know, ever. So he's never had an outside babysitter, never with extended family, never with any of my friends, nothing. It's just been with those same 4 people. And so I didn't know how he was going to receive doing this test with someone new. It was a 2-hour test, guys. And the test, it has nothing to do with his academics, of where he's at academically. They don't care if he can spell his name. They don't care if he can write. They didn't care if he can read. They don't care, you know, if he can add and subtract. None of those things were ever brought up. I didn't know that. I thought it was just like, you know, like a skills test maybe, and they're going to see like, oh, cool, he can do these things at this age, but none of that. I go to drop him off on the first day, and, you know, I explain all this to Dr. Hilary in advance, and she's like, oh, he'll be fine, let's do this, right? The kid, you know, is instantly comfortable with her because he's the friendliest person alive, I swear. You know, he walks in, and I go to my car, and I'm timing it, because I'm like, I don't know, you know, I'm nervous, I'm scared, whatever. I get the phone call 11 minutes later, literally 11 minutes, I get the phone call, hey, can you come back to my office? So I walk in, there's Dr. Hilary, and Nathaniel runs up, gives me a big hug. He's like, Mom, I missed you so much. I love you so much. I'm tired. I want to go home. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, what's going on? And, you know, and she's explained to me, she's like, you know, he just kept saying how much he missed you, and he didn't want to do the test because he can't focus without you there. And I'm like, this is exactly what I was scared of, you know. And so I'm talking to Nathaniel, reassuring him. She's like, why don't you guys go for a walk, go play, come back in a few hours. She's like, I'll finish the test then. So I go and I put him in the car with my mom. She came with me to the appointment, and I go back to her office, and she's like, look, she's like, I want to be really honest and transparent with you. She goes, you know, in these minutes that I just did with Nathaniel, she's like, I'm trying to discover his weakness. She's like, I have to keep going further into these tests to, you know, discover the weakness that he has. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, you know, most kids will come in here. She's like, I have brilliant kids that come into my office, you know, who are so, you know, smart and capable. But she's like, these tests are not designed for them. And so she'll stop the test midway and tell them, like, you know, tell their parents, you know, this isn't for them. This isn't, you know, going to transpire well for them. And she's like, with Nathaniel, we stopped the test already. She's like, I can call the school for you on, you know, my behalf. I'll personally make that phone call and tell him that, you know, this kid will definitely be accepted in. She's like, just what I've seen in the short amount of time with these tests. She's like, shh. She's like, he's definitely going to get accepted. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, so we have a choice to make. She's like, we can either continue with this test, or I could stop her right here and make that phone call for you. I said, well, you know what? I said, let's just do the test and let's just finish it. Because I was like, we're not quitters. Nathaniel will get through it. Let's just see where his weakness is. God, I want to know where his weakness is, right? So we go back 3 hours later. It was disastrous that time. That second time was disastrous. I got the phone call 14 minutes this time he lasted, but that 14 minutes was pure chaos. He refused to cooperate. He flat out told her, I'm not doing this anymore. So he's like, I'm not doing this. And so the thing about this test is that there's no redo. If she stops the test, that's it. She doesn't go back to it and be like, okay, let's focus now and recollect and we'll go back to this question. If he doesn't do it right then and there, it doesn't get done. So she calls him back in and she goes, she's like, I think he's just very distracted right now. He's in a new environment. Let's just schedule this for a few days later for next week. Bring him back in. So during this time, I put Nathaniel on punishment. I took away all his privileges, right? Like his computers, filming, his dessert privilege, things like that. To tell him, like, you can't behave this way with someone. This was schoolwork, and I guess I didn't introduce it as schoolwork. I just introduced it as, hey, you're going to meet mommy's friend, and, she wants to learn, about how you learn, and, you're just going to answer some questions. I didn't really present it in the right format, so that's my fault. But needless to say, he had time to clear out all these distractions and really get focused on his behavior. Because at this point, I don't care how he scores on the test. It's just about him completing it and getting through it. So we go back. This is our third try now on this test for him to complete the rest. He stayed for 35 minutes before he needed a break and came out and he saw me and he was happy. And she's like, he's doing so well. Like, we're so proud of him, He ended up staying for, additional hour with her, just solely with her. No phone calls, no tears, no tantrums, nothing. And he completed the test. So I just got the results, guys, and it's really exciting. So she actually didn't even do the full test because she said there was no need to. She said once she got to the point that she needed to, she knew that this little part that wasn't done, she's like, there was just, it would have just wasted our time. She's like, but the school requires it. She's like, I'll pull him back in and do it. So we got the results of his test, and guys, I was blown away. Like I said, I knew my son was smart academically, but to be smart intellectually, if you will, to be able to think outside the box and be creative, I have no idea. And so the test, that's what it did. It told us that he is. So he ranked very superior in almost everything. And it's kind of funny. I'll show you the results, but without all this information shown. But he ranked very superior in almost everything except for the part. You could see, when he refused to cooperate and refused to do the test. So you'll see that in it. So it's quite hilarious. He scored a 136 out of 140. So that was really spectacular. He ranks as 99.7 percentile for kids ages 2 to 7. That's where he ranks with them. So huge feat. I mean, that was really like a lot to take in because that just leveled up my game. Nathaniel has super high expectations of me. And, guys, like he comes up to me one day and he's like, hey mom, do you have a hammer? I was like, a hammer? What do you need a hammer for? He's like, come here. He's like, you see this wall? He's like, I need to hammer it. I go, why? He's like, because there's an elevator behind here. I was like, Nathaniel, there's not an elevator in our house. He's like, why not? Like every few days he goes back up to that wall and he's banging on it. He's like, Mom, I know there's an elevator. There has to be an elevator here. Why is there not an elevator here? And I'm like, Nathaniel, like, what do you expect of me? And then in the morning sometimes he'll wake up and I'll be like, hey Mom, good morning. Like he always says, I love you first. He's like, I love you, Mom. And then he's like, Mom, let's go to the airport today and fly to Hawaii. I'm like, things like that take planning, Nathaniel, and who just jumps on a plane and goes to Hawaii like on some random Tuesday? Like, that's not how it is, but his expectations of what I'm able to do or what I'm supposed to do for him or what he's supposed to be provided, not in a materialistic way, but just in a, like, this is how life should be for everyone, way. It's really cute, and so, it made me step up my game and say, all right, these are your expectations, let's do it. And so, I have high expectations for him too, just, behavior-wise, just so he doesn't quit. I don't care, how he does on any test ever in the future. It makes no difference. It doesn't tell me who he is, It's that he cares about people and he's doing well and that he has good character and that he's being raised with, values. And, like, goodness, like, now what? Like, now what do you do? Okay, so now he's a genius. Now what do I do? I don't know. I have no idea. I was a part of the gifted programs in school, but, my IQ was nowhere near his, and so at 4 years old, let alone. So I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm just looking for the best environment for him and to really support him in his learning ventures and to keep him very grounded and very, very complete as a person. And so let me tell you a really cute story. So one time, Nathaniel did something and I was putting him in timeout because, I put him in timeout and we're walking there and he's not mad or upset about it. And so that made me even more like livid and furious. So I'm like, you're in timeout. And he turns to me, he goes, Mom, how long am I in timeout for? I'm like, I don't know, Nathaniel. And he goes, forever, Mom? And I'm like, yes, Nathaniel, you're in timeout for forever. That's when he started the biggest bawling and crying in life. And he's like, Mom, I have to change the world. I can't change the world if I'm in timeout forever, right? And so he's like just sobbing. I'm like, oh gosh, I stopped. I'm like, is it really worth it? He understands his purpose is bigger than, what he sees around him and what he's going through already at 4 years old. And he knows his knowledge is not just for him. And Nathaniel, the type of questions he asks are just very different. Like, he's not like, oh, Mommy, how, where, I can't even think of a question right now, but I'll give you a great one. Okay, here we go. So, why we're doing the periodic table right now is because Nathaniel turns to me at nap time and he goes, Mom, what's water made out of? And I'm like, shoot, okay, let me make sure I'm going to give the right thing. I know it's H2O. So I was like, oh, it's like these elements. It's called H2O. That's what it's made out of. So he turns again and he's like, Mom, what's air made out of? Like, he just follows right up with that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's oxygen. It's O2. I'm like, there's this thing called the periodic table of elements, and this is what all matter is created out of. And, trying to, explain it best offhand that I could remember from school. And, these answers weren't good enough for him. He wanted a deeper understanding of it. But yeah, so anyways, besides all that, so yes, I just submitted his information to Mensa, for those of you that are familiar with it, to see if they'll accept him. He hits all the criteria for it, so I'm going to see, what happens, and hopefully that'll be my next, post is celebrating that he's part of Mensa too. So, yeah, basically I have a little brainiac on my hands here, a little genius that I believe is in every single child out there. I think every child has this genius inside of them, and it's really up to the parents to, pull it out or develop it or, whatever it may be. If it's in music, if it's in coloring, if it's in building, whatever, just bring that genius out of your children. And that's what I think I've done with him in a lot of ways, aside from his natural, God-given talent. So I'll probably post his scores just to show you guys, hiding his personal info, but just to show how he's rated. Because like I said, you'll see the clear difference of when Nathaniel decided to walk out of the room and declare he wasn't doing it anymore to when he actually participated and tried. Yeah, so outside of that, we'll be seeing you guys later. And I'll end up responding to everyone. I'm sorry I don't, but when he's on the go or when he's learning or when we're doing stuff or when we're drawing or painting or playing or imagining, it's hard to be on my phone because I'm really in those moments with him. But, so, wish him luck. Give him a great congrats. We're very proud of him.
Look how fast Jackson can jump, look.
Ooh, good job, Jackin. That's his imaginary friend. But yes, so anyways, have a great day. We'll be talking to you guys soon. I'll show you some of the steps if anyone's interested in watching, what this process is like, because I've never gone through it before, to have someone that gifted around me. So this will be new as to what we're supposed to do with it now. It's like, okay, great, you have this. Now what? I don't know either. We'll figure it out, though. So see you guys all later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.